Alright, welcome back if you stayed tuned this long after the introduction. I know it was a little weird, but I don't have the slightest idea what I'm doing. My wife actually yells at me all the time because I don't know enough about social media, which is weird because I'm actually pretty young to not know about it. So anyway, so wanted to talk about this tip I figured out with leather work, right? And we're going to start off with looking at this one, okay? Now this is a mahogany, kimber, micro, non, horizontal carry, snap, retention, all this good stuff, right? So what I want to look at on this, because again I'm in the process, and great, now I can't figure out how to turn the camera, so I'm just going to do it like this. So if you look at the holes on this one, you know they're the regular hole punches, right? So you can barely see the thread because it's all colored the same and or dyed the same. And so finally, after a couple years, I went out and I got a chisel punch, right? Because it makes it a lot nicer. And here, I'll let you see this one, okay? And this is I can't get this thing to focus. There we go. So it just, there's no excess space to it. It's really nice. The chisel punch is a very nice thing. I got this from the local Tandy Leather store. They're real good about helping me every time. This little 3mm one. But anyway, so the tip I figured out, okay, after all this time, because I've been punching holes in leather for a couple years now, and was never a very fun process. It was probably the worst one ever. Stitching it was my favorite by all means. So for this, what I wanted to say was, you know, punching this, you can probably actually see it on there. There's some wax on there, because that's what this is, right? So you punch through dry leather. Maybe you're supposed to punch it when it's wet. I don't know. I punch it when it's dry, sometimes before I dye it, sometimes after. And I'm working on this right now, which is this little strap that's actually going to be the mirror image of this one. This was actually one I screwed up, and we're going to talk about that too. So with the chisel, right? You would think it's idiot proof. It's not. I'm an idiot, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, because you hit it in, it gets stuck, you're ripping it out, and it's just awful. So what I did is last time, well, probably a couple months ago actually, I decided to buy this little wax block. Okay, now this is again something you can just get at Tandy. I'm sure you can order it online, and all I do is take it and just rake it across a little bit, and it gives you just enough wax, and it slides in like it's nothing. It's ridiculous. And that was one of the things when I was trying to figure out, hey, what am I doing wrong, right? Because you can never figure out what you're doing wrong. Or nobody can tell you, right? Because it's really hard unless you're doing it in front of somebody. No one ever seems to know what you're actually freaking talking about. So I got this little wax block, and all of a sudden my holes are being punched so much simpler. I did these, okay, this is just one line out of, obviously you can see I got to do both lines to stitch together, just make it look nice, right? Nice little, just like this one, nice little contrast color. This is actually the moccasin brown, yeah, moccasin brown, and it's a real nice deep brown color. So yeah, it works out ridiculously well, and it makes it so much easier getting it in, pulling it out. It sounded kind of weird, but it really is those simple things that people just don't seem to want to tell you, because it seems obvious. And so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna finish punching these holes, and I'm gonna come back and show you, hey, this is what I was talking about. It'll probably take me maybe another 5 minutes, just because there's a lot of holes. Actually, before I go, I want to talk about something, because I learned this the hard way, which is why the customer for this one is actually getting 2 straps, right? This is one that's been riveted together, okay, and it's going to fold over, and I'll show you the actual holster once it's done and put together. But it was originally supposed to be a snap loop, right? Inside the waistband, runs over the pants, under the belt, snaps back together, which is what this one's going to be, okay? If you're wondering about those 2 holes, I'm going to put eyelets in it, and there's a reason for that too. But yeah, so if you notice, this one isn't punched all the way through. I figured that out the hard way, because normal, even line 24 snaps, which are the bigger ones, right? They're supposed to be the sturdier ones. These, they they don't go through 2 sheets, even of the thinner stuff, because I used to use 8 to 9 ounce, which is relatively thick. One of these days I'll actually get down with a digital micrometer and figure it out. But a caliper, not micrometer. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But again, so you notice this it isn't punched all the way through. So what is actually happening with this is I mounted the snap on this side and just didn't punch it through, glued it together. That was another real simple trick that never thought of, no one ever told me, no matter how many times I asked or how many videos I looked at, right? They always seem to get it perfect every time. One of the other things I want to mention is I do all of this by hand. I actually have a sewing machine that would probably make this 1,000 times easier, and I wouldn't have to punch holes, but I decided, one, I don't know how to work the sewing machine, so one of these days I'm going to sit down and do it, if I start doing this more and more. Probably if I made more, I'd sell more. But even without that, stitching leather together, it's just so nice. It's so therapeutic. And it sounds really weird. My wife always looks at me weird. But, so yeah. If you're wondering how to get holes that perfectly line up every time, I mean, you can probably, if I can get this angled right, you can probably see daylight through them. Nope. Well, I can see it. Glue your stuff together first, which is a hard concept, because if you're like me and you do everything by hand, you're also molding leather by hand. So then to mold, especially like a pancake style holster, or really anything, even a taco style, wraparound style, whatever you want to call it, it's really hard to mold it, and then you glue it together, but what if the gun doesn't fit, right? Maybe you're putting a design on it, anything like that. So I really want to keep this short, because I know me, like, if something's more than 10 minutes, I don't want to watch it. So I'm coming up on 7 now. So I'm going to go ahead and not stitch this. I'm going to go ahead and punch the rest of these holes. My Kydex that's in the press right now is about ready to come out. And, you know, we'll probably make a real quick video on that one too, because it's a real simple one, but I want to give a shout out to the guy who ordered it, because he gave me a lot of business, and he kind of dug me out of a hole. This is really just a hobby. This is not a full-time job. And, every once in a while it works out. I get a real big order for something, and my mortgage gets paid. So it's just a lot of fun, and that's why I do this. My prices are usually cheaper than anybody, so even for stock stuff. Alright, coming up on 8 minutes. I'm out. See y'all in a few minutes.